Welcome to Shelf Life from the One-Stop Co-op Shop, where I look at games I previously covered on the YouTube channel and in the podcast, and decide whether I'm going to keep them in my collection. For this month's episode, I'm looking at games I covered in March of this year, and if you want to jump to a specific game to hear my final thoughts on it, just click the timestamps. And don't forget to hang on until the end of the video so you can see if you're this month's lucky contest winner. But let's get to what you're here for and find out which of these games had shelf life. We'll start first with Aquicorn Cove, a 1 to 4 player family weight game where you strive to save both your tiny coastal village and the life-giving reef that surrounds it. I got this one mainly for my son, so did it hold his attention and mine? Not for the long haul. I still definitely recommend the Aquicorn Cove for family gamers. My son really enjoyed it and it got him interested in environmental issues and ocean welfare. But at the same time, it doesn't have a ton of variety in the gameplay, so after 4 or 5 plays with my son, he wasn't too interested anymore, and it's not really heavy enough for me to solo, so I gave it to another family friend so he could play it with his kids. Next we have Shadowrift, a cooperative deck-building game of town defense. It's sitting right there over my shoulder. In the next shot, will it be in my hands? Nope, it's still right over there. While I really enjoyed some parts of Shadowrift's deck-building formula, and especially the town and kind of the living, breathing villagers you have to protect, the fiddliness of some of the gameplay elements and the totally underwhelming victory condition really soured this one for me. Now, to be fair to the game, Colin and Jason Perez have told me that the Archfiends expansion really improves the endgame and kind of gives you a boss to fight. But I just didn't like the game enough to track down another expansion, so as soon as I can find a buyer or a trader, this one's gone. Next is Cuba Libre, an entry in GMT's Coin series modeling the counterinsurgency led by Fidel Castro in Cuba. Has Cuba Libre been replaced by all of the other war games I've been playing recently? Nope, it's our first one to stay. Now, I want to be really clear, coin games are not for everyone, especially playing solo. Running those bots can be a chore. And I've played 2 more coin games since this one, both Pendragon and Gandhi that I'm currently playing, and I like both of those better than Cuba Libre. But the key reason I'm keeping Cuba Libre is that it's the simplest to play, the simplest to teach to others, so when I want to get that coin experience with a little bit less overhead, or when I hopefully get to teach some other people how to play the game, I think I want to have Cuba Libre on hand before I push them into the heavier entries later. In slot number 4, we have The Fox and the Forest Duet, a cooperative trick-taking game for 2 players. Did this trick-taking game hang on with the crew mounting some serious opposition? It did indeed. Although I really enjoy the crew for 3 to 5 player games, I find 2-player to be the weakest way to play it, because it can be so swingy which cards are hidden by the 3rd player. So even though The Fox and the Forest Duet is limited to just 2 players, it's great at that player count, and it's also a player count I'm very likely to play it with my wife. And I'll add as a final note, even with all the theoretical variety in the missions in the crew, I still think I prefer the variety in play from The Fox and the Forest Duet with the special cards. I wish there was something more complicated like that in the crew. Next we have Gloom and Shadows of Kilforth, 2 standalone games for 1 to 4 players of fantasy adventure. So did either of these sets hold my interest? Actually, I still have them both. I'll say right off the bat that the Kilforth games are probably the ones I'm the least sure about on my list. I still feel like even with all my plays of both sets that I haven't seen everything, and sometimes the dialogue can be a little punishing. I don't always love how the health equals actions, but that being said, there's so much cool content here, the art is beautiful, and it can be pretty quick to play, especially solo, and co-op works pretty well too, so I think I'll hang on to it. I have so many nice things with it, and so many like extra sets, and a playmat, but I don't know if it'll ever be like top of my list, but I enjoy it, so for now it's hanging around. At number 6 we have Mystic Vale, a competitive game of card construction that can also be played solo with the Nemesis expansion. Did the solo play construct its way into my heart? Not so much. Although I really enjoy Mystic Vale's take on deck building and the comboing in the game, for competitive playing it felt pretty much like multiplayer solitaire, so it wasn't that exciting, and for solo with Nemesis I didn't really love how they did the solo mode, so honestly I prefer playing the game on the app instead of playing it physically, so there's not much need for me to keep the box. I can just do the electronic form. Next we have Slide Quest, a cooperative family game for 1 to 4 players, where you guide a knight around obstacles on a tilting board. Did Slide Quest fare better with my kids in the long run than Aquicorn Cove? Kind of, but for now it's still here. To be completely truthful, my sons aren't very good at the game, so they get kind of frustrated when we try to play it for real, and they give up pretty quickly, which might make you think I would get rid of the game. But at least for now, 2 things are pushing me to keep it. First, there's the hope that they'll get better at the game, and eventually we can kick its butt. And second is the toy factor. Even if they're terrible at the real game, they still like sliding the guy around, making him fall in pits and push the enemies around, so for now it's staying around at least for some fun. And finally we have Dark Venture, a competitive solo or cooperative game mixing fantasy and sci-fi adventure elements. Is Dark Venture still trekking its way through my collection? Nope, it is gone. I enjoyed a lot of elements in Dark Venture's design, especially the varied encounters you could have and the way you built the map and played the characters onto it. But in the end, I really felt like the game was designed primarily for competitive play, with solo and co-op a bit more tacked on, and the competitive play was just good for me, not great, and I don't really play competitive that much anyway. So this one actually went to a previous Shelf Life winner, and hopefully they've been enjoying it. So there you go, another month down, and wow, 4 games out of 8, 50%, that might be a record for Shelf Life. Though I don't think any of these were super enthusiastic keeps, like I don't know if any of them will make it into my top 20. And let's quickly announce our winner for this month. It is Kyle Folsom, the only one out of all of our over 100 entrants who got every game right. Kyle, look out for an email from me soon, and thanks to everybody for entering. And I'll see you next month with another installment of Shelf Life.